We love our listeners.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
There are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. It is indeed a wonderful Wednesday. And in the studio, the excellent company of Mr. Dwayne Ebanks. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. And it's a pleasure always, Mr. Loxlow, to welcome you, to share with you, to learn from you, to truly be in your presence. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Glad to be here.
You know, I won't endeavor to talk of the school and, unlike Las Vegas, whatever stays here, stays here. But sometimes just to chat with you on the walk-in, during the break, just you get a chance to revisit history, as it were. Get a chance to be informed of what could lie ahead. And I say that because I think as a society sometimes we don't look to our parents, to our elders for counsel, for their experiences. And sometimes, there isn't seemingly enough time to share. So thank you for what you do.
Well, yeah, I think one of our downfalls, as I guess the old folks would say, is that the Cayman people, Cayman Islands in general, have not sung or sung loud enough and often enough. And I think it's at a critical point that if it's not sung often, loud and clear and continuously, that it will eventually be buried. And the Cayman Islands has a rich cultural history or heritage or history. We should be really proud of it and really talking about it all the time. It should be a constant conversation amongst especially Caymanians and let it be known that those that come around Northwest Point or Southwest Point should endeavor to engage in the same thing.
And it isn't that it's all about instilling a sense of national pride or even trying to remember from whence it cometh. But as you shared, the stories are rich. If you think back to, for me, primarily were the men, but there were some good women who could spin a yarn.
Definitely,
right?
Yes.
And you listen to the stories that they would share. And if you're fortunate enough to have a father who would lay next to you in the evening as you put you to bed and tell you about, his boyhood, as it were. They'll fascinate you better than any miniseries in a documentary.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. It's and maybe that is an aspect that is not as prevalent, let's say, relatively in the Caymanian society as it was, let's say, up through the 60s, maybe even early 70s. Because I think probably mid-60s, late 60s was when that kind of interaction started to maybe see a little decline.
And it's amazing how if you just listen to stories and sometimes they're embellished, sometimes little things are added because you got a little older, so now you can hear a little bit more of the color, as it were. But then there are times when you start to, if you pay attention, you start to, wait a minute, this was said here, this was said there. There is the connection.
I mean, I recall a story that my father told me, and this was during the Depression, the Great Depression, they called it. Of course, he was working up North America States, and I think he had come on some hard times, and he told me that he hoboed. Now, you know what hobo means? Mm-hmm. Hoboed means hopping trains.
Trains, yeah.
He hoboed his way down from New York to Florida. And I said, and I didn't understand it at the time. And, when I said, you mean you hopping trains? He said, yeah.
Yeah. You're catching a freight train, the carts are open.
Yeah.
And, I had a client long ago, and he's one of those people now that since have, because of his history. And I remember a conversation that he shared. And you think back to the people who experienced that. They may have had wealth and lost it. They may have been subject to abject poverty, and they saw the hardships, and it created with them a resolve. And he would be, and so this is someone from the U.S., and he's saying, there was limited supplies of lamp oil, and so in order to get ahead, he sort of needed to study, and studying was easy. So libraries were closing, all sorts of services were no longer provided, but he had access to it through, some other means. And I saw a strong correlation between the stories he would share and what I would hear from my parents. A small island with limited stuff, not a subject to the material dispossession that he may have experienced, but the same sort of resolve, the same sort of consequence.
I think probably very few people sort of realize the hardships that were out here, especially during what they call the Great Depression area.
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard stories of it, when I was growing up, and you don't really hear much about it nowadays, but, and I think that was part of what cemented the resolve of the community back in those days.
Do you think, and I certainly will be mindful of your time, but this is why in chatting with you, get a little bit from you, get a little bit from there. The thing, and I'll say this publicly where I'm finding is that there's an impatience, both from the perspective of time is so finite, so I want to get to the meat. But in order for me to get to the meat, you got to go around the periphery of the table, get a little bit of the stuff I think is just there for garnish, get rid of that. But that's how we tell stories, that's how we get this stuff. And so sometimes when my parents would, especially my mother would tell a story about something, just get to the salient point. But you need all that in order to paint the picture. I ask that in this light. If we look back to the Great Depression, and we hear from those of us whose parents are at that age, or maybe so great-grandparents for some of us, they did not have that level of stuff, food shortages, because there were some grounds, there were provision, there was, again, I just speak to West Bay. The North Sound was the backyard farm, in a sense, right?
We had the ocean, we had the ground.
Yeah. But they would tell you, well, today it's something from the ground or something from the sea, and that was it. You didn't get any other kind of meat. The provision was starch. It was whatever came out of the ground. Now, a few people, depending on the season, may have had some sort of beans. Didn't know that we grew pigeon peas, the white, I guess what is kind of like the white bean, the big one. We didn't realize that we grew some of those things, the wild strawberries. The land was, bountiful when the land was bountiful. But there were times when, during that era, there wasn't much.
And, you go into the store now and you see the blueberries all over the place. And I think it's called a fustic tree. A fustic tree produced those, and they looked just like blueberries, and they were very, very, they were delicious to eat. And then you had the prickly pear berries.
I used to like them. But even the wild strawberries, when was the last time you saw them?
Well, I haven't seen one in, I'd say the last. I've been back home permanently, something like 45 years. So I don't think I've seen one in the last 50 years. In fact, it's kind of rare to see a strawberry tree.
Yeah, I say that because now make sure I should notice. Were those the sticks we used for fish pots? Or
they were very prominently used for fish pots, and I think they were also used for the wattle.
Yeah, okay.
The wattle, in the wattle and daub walls.
So the fish pots are the one I know, and there were particular in order to what size and whichever. Right?
Yeah, and they grow straight. They were straight, pretty well straight branch.
Yep. And that white grayish color into it, beautiful. Right. But that's the last time I saw, and probably I think I may have tasted, and so that wasn't yesterday.
And another use of the strawberry plant was that growing up, I think the only time that we had toothpaste was when my father came home from sea. He usually brought home, and I remember the brand, and I don't think I see it on the anywhere now. Ipana toothpaste, but you'd use the strawberry branch, let's say about size of your little finger, and sort of spread it out in little, because it has fiber in it, and you'd use that for a toothbrush.
And it worked, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
And it's amazing how if you can engage your children, your grandchildren, it's amazing how they want to know about this thing. I've seen a renewed interest by a few people, and I know part of why. But this whole DNA testing that we're doing, yes, it's a good gift to give. But people have actually taken it up to kind of see how we're spread out and how we're connected and interconnected. But we did it before verbally. Your great-great-grandmothers, uncles, whichever, and it went back. And just verbally, if you started to add it up, you can quickly come 5, 6, 7 generations, and then sometimes there were little interludes, huh?
And a lot our elders, they tried to make sure that they got it out from between their ears and put it where it was written down somewhere, because I've got a record, I guess you had to put it that way. I don't want to call it a manuscript, but a record of Miss Ivy Powell dictating to one of her nieces, or would have been grandniece, her niece, the family history.
Wow.
And she did it because she was concerned, she was interested in being able to pass this information down.
Well, it's something I think that,
And she did this, I would believe, when she was probably 90, because she almost lived to be 100 years old. And she did this probably in her early 90s or late 80s.
Well, you know what? I'm probably more guilty than most when it comes to not doing that, not paying attention, not asking, not recording. Because I know, because I have access. And we have the technology available to us now that we can record it in all formats without having to pay in a great deal of money to spend any more time than we do, because we're there, but we're not doing it. And this is why I'm grateful for your efforts. I think Fridays for sure, as you see, I came in, I was supposed to preview it, give them a heads up, and 15 minutes later, I'm still...
Get to it.
You got to get to it? Yeah. All right. So, do we get to it now?
Yeah, we can get to it. If you need to take a break, probably be a good time to take a break, and then we come back and...
Okay. Well, you see now, people, just so you understand, Susan's normally the boss, unless when she's not, it's Mr. Loxley. All right, we're going to pause and take a break. And when we come back, we're going to get to it. You want to know what that is? Well, join us after the break.
I've got some beautiful clothes.
The management and staff of Puritan Cleaners would like to wish everyone a happy, healthy, and prosperous 2020. Puritan Cleaners provides you with all your laundry and dry cleaning needs for over 60 years. Free pickup and delivery. 3 convenient locations to serve you. Savannah Countryside, 946-1884. Elgin Avenue by Off the Peg, 949-2452. Eastern Avenue drive-through, rain or shine, 949-7104.
Check us online at www.puritan.ky.
Puritan Cleaners, you feel good when you look good.
Count on Us Cayman Limited. Count on Us Cayman Limited. Let me see if I can find this in this book.
Count on Us Cayman Limited? What are you talking about, Susie Q?
Nita, Count on Us Cayman Limited. Let me tell you, it is a small, robust service company in Cayman. They offer bookkeeping services, property management, and that's not all. They also offer a variety of other services, such as customs brokerage and Cayman auto and tech services.
Then it sounds like I don't have to run all over town like a chicken with its head cut off to get my business taken care of. I can just call. What's that place called again, sir?
It's called Count on Us Cayman Limited. They take the time to understand your business. If you need more information, you can give them a call at 623-6941 or you can call 323-3995. And if you need to email them, the email address is info@countonuscaymanlimited.com.
This is the NDC. We're calling on all volunteers to assist us in the administration of the Cayman Islands Student Drug Use Survey.
The survey tracks and monitors over time high-risk behaviors, trends, mental health, and bullying, among other things. This allows us to develop and implement evidence-based prevention programs in our schools and communities.
To volunteer, please call 949-9000 or email iMcLean@ndc.ky by January 24th.
Volunteers must be 18 years or older, can give approximately 1 hour of their time, and willing to attend a brief 30-minute training.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today in the studio. Excellent company, Mr. Loxley Banks. And what do I say before the break? Let's get to it.
Get to it now.
Let's get to it now. All right. I'm going to follow your lead, sir.
Well, it's the second program in this series of CI Retro Talk Today special presentation coming up on Friday. And it revolves around and partly because of the celebratory period that we're in, celebrating our first Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
The program will sort of review the path that we followed to getting our first Constitution, and a bit about Cayman Islands politics and governance. And it's such a vast subject that I have just about decided that it is going to have to be done in 3 programs.
Mm-hmm.
And the first program on Friday will basically deal with, kind of giving you the background from when Columbus sighted Little Cayman and some of the highlights up through, when the first legislative body was formed in, I guess, 1631, I believe it was.
1831?
1831. And then, sort of highlighting from that period on up to where we arrived at in the late 50s, 60s period. And the second program, I think, will delve into the formation and the beginning of the thoughts of political parties in Cayman.
And I'm glad you referenced Friday. We'll get into 1831 because in talking to some of our historians, some of our people at the very least interested in our political history, they said, okay, coming in this discussion now as we talk about 60 years, but really for them, 1831 was the first constitution. That was the first sort of semblance of parliament as we know it.
Well, it was the first effort, I think, or at least the first recorded effort on record of the people of Cayman Islands at the time getting together and say, we need to stick together here. We need to have some form of government that is going to govern us. And, I think it turned out pretty good.
Yeah. And some would share, we had this thing which shows a resolve, shows a level of organization. Others have commented, well, for a while now, you have the British, because in this region it was British Cayman, British Jamaica, British Honduras. The British were done at one stage, I guess from the Treaty of Madrid in 1670, they started to move in and control and dominate. And they had the strongest naval presence around, right? Yeah. The Dutch failed, the Portuguese quickly waned. But I share that to say that within the Cayman psyche and within the Cayman confines, our people were independent financially, politically. We saw the need. And yet...
Well, I don't know whether you've seen today's, I think it's today's Cayman Times, where the story, one of the stories in it is that some parliamentarian in Britain has suggested that the colonies or the overseas countries, overseas territories, be made, and this is after Brexit, a part of, let's say, the parliamentary structure in Cayman or in UK, that they have representation there.
Yeah. Similar to what the Dutch and the French do.
Yeah, and and I'm not sure, I guess it might not come up until the second program, but there was a comment by one of the parliamentarians of the 1955 era up through that a Jamaican parliamentarian made to him at a conference in Jamaica that, and the term that they related was that said, and this was the Jamaican parliamentarian, Jamaica could have had Cayman right in the palm of their hands if they had thought of offering the Cayman Islands at that time and that period a seat in the Jamaican Legislative Assembly.
Yeah.
And his comment was that he thought it would have been too big a plum for the Cayman political to reject.
Yeah. And I look at that in light of, in light of the 1999 Partnership for Progress and Prosperity.
Yeah.
You can almost say that without choking on it, as I'm not sure which side the Progress and Prosperity was on.
Well, this story referred to some of those
right.
documents.
Yeah. And you look at that 99 white people from the UK, integration and whatever the options were that, in terms of self-determination, it was almost a farce. Right? And it would almost seem like, my perspective, looking at political history, because that's what 1,000 years ago now, in a blink of an eye, so to speak.
Well, it was just political sort of expediency at the time, just to, and it was, I think, primarily to satisfy the concerns of the United Nations.
Yeah.
Because you remember, I guess it was 1976, where actually two of our legislators went before the United Nations Decolonization Committee or whatever it was at that time, to make it known that Cayman wanted to remain a part of the British whatever name you put it on at the time.
But this is why I know Friday's going to be great. This is, I guess, a trilogy. A 3-part series.
Well, you could put it that. But we got a little 2-minute segment cut, and I think Susan's got that ready to go, of just a little teaser on what you'll hear within these programs, because what we've done, we've gone back and reconstructed about 90 minutes of comments from legislators of that era, the early 50s, actually early or the mid 40s, because one of them was elected to the Cayman Islands vestry and what was the other name? Vestry of electors and JPs,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in 1944. So it, you know, but anyway, we will listen to this cut and then come back and just have a little discussion on some of the things that revealed in just that two minute segment. And it was what you're going to hear. Most of it is a sort of preamble that Doran Miller researched and put together in 1981-82 for the celebration of the 150th anniversary of start of parliamentary government in the Cayman Islands.
Mm-hmm.
Representative government by justices and vestry in the Cayman Islands came to an end some 23 years ago. It was on July 3rd, 1959, the day before the first Constitution came into effect, that the 54-member body met for the last time. We think it worthy to quote from farewell messages of some of those serving when the dissolution of that assembly came. The quotes are taken from the historical record compiled and written by Clerk of the Legislature, Mrs. Sybil McLaughlin, to mark this year's anniversary. Mr. E. Ducan Marin, speaking that day, noted that the Cayman Islands were then on the map and predicted greater things were to come, which would mean the spending of millions of dollars, and that these developments would not take long to become reality. Mr. T.W. Farrington of West Bay chose the occasion to quote Commissioner Cardinal's advice to him on the eve of his departure to the Falkland Islands. "Willie, my boy," said the Commissioner, "you have now been put on the map. For God's sake, promise me you will not allow outsiders to come and take this beautiful island away from you." Mr. Farrington continued that what Sir Alan Cardinal meant could well be appreciated if stock was taken of what was happening all around the Caymans. Commissioner Alan H. Donald said that perhaps one of the most important features of the new Constitution would be that women would be expected to shoulder their share of the burden of state. He noted that women were not only being given the right to vote and to hold public office, they were being given a solemn duty of taking a mature and adult part in running their country.
The era of vestrymen and justices, as you know, the first constitution of the Cayman Islands. This was when Jamaica went full internal self-government, and of course the island had to decide and the course it would like to take, whether it would remain with Jamaica or it would adopt its own constitution.
Yes, the laws of Jamaica could be applied to the Cayman Islands.
Mr. Loxley.
You've heard some of the comments there that the legislators of that day made in reference to the Cayman Islands getting its first constitution, and some of them was quite revealing. And you know, if you look at the history from that day forward to where we're at today, boy, were they on mark.
But it's interesting, though, that the comments, even Commissioner Gerard has recorded, but even then in that verbal clip. So I don't say this to be in any which way disrespectful, but the British overseers, right, who are in power, saying to the Caymanians or elected and appointed personnel, listen now, you got a good thing, take care of it. Don't let it be taken from you. Don't let it be destroyed. This is in the 50s, even prior. The writing is on the wall of what is transpiring. The admonition, perhaps, the council is looking, have a little bit of vision and foresight, look down the road, see what has happened elsewhere, see what is happening here. And for us, whatever we have that we, brought with us from our education and experience, going to share with you. Be mindful. We fast forward, to this day, this is the same thing.
I think, the telling thing, one of the telling points in that was that Mr. William Farrington, recognized the validity of what Commissioner Cardinal was saying to him. Because if you remember, he said, if you look around at what's happening to us today, it's already happening. And this was, I believe that when Cardinal left here, because Cardinal was before Donalds and then Rose and Gerard, I believe, and so that might have been back in the early 40s.
But Sir Alan, in the opening sort of reel, he speaks candidly, very, very well, seemingly from the parlance and the intonation, very friendly and endearing, and not didn't sound condescending, but endearing. Hey, come on now, let's make sure we keep this thing going.
Yeah. And if you explore that avenue and think about what kind of a job have we done over those, I think that was probably spoken, I think, in the early 40s, so that had been 60 in the last 80 years. I mean, think about it, where we're at today.
They say that hindsight is 20/20.
But you see, we ought to be able to learn from hindsight. If we don't learn from it, then
What is it your mama tells you? If you don't have something between your ears more than a year, how you gonna learn?
But I think it'd be a very interesting series of programs because you'll hear from legislators of the day speaking on the subject. We got Masani on there, very poignant in what she says, and one of the main orators of the day, or what shall we say, movers of the day, Mr. Ormond Patton.
Mr. Ormond?
Mr. Ormond Patton and Mr. From East End, Mr. Warren Connolly, and quite a number of others. And so it's I think it would be quite revealing. And at this point, I think that at this juncture, that hopefully that there is a great awakening within the community that Cayman has to sing its song. They have to sing it loud, and they have to sing it clear, and they have to sing it consistently. And I think I know the Ministry of Culture is very involved in this, trying to make sure that this will happen, and that it continues to happen. And with the new cultural policy, I believe, getting ready to really blossom out, hopefully that we can see a heightened measure of this throughout the whole community.
Sing it consistently, proudly, loudly, but also accurately, because even our national song, we see sometimes the renditions having a word added or taken off, or different little things that we hear from people who know better. And it's just little pieces of that.
Yeah, I heard, and again, I guess it all comes back to the Cayman CI sensitivity. I heard, I think, an ad somewhere on here, and they used a piece of the Cayman song recording, and unless you was familiar with the melody and the words, you would not know that they were talking about the Cayman Islands. And I said to myself, I wonder who produced that, because it's one of those things. But I think it'll be a great series of programs, and it should be very educational. Hopefully that we can produce it in a way that it would be usable for the schools to take these various programs and sort of in the civics class or whatever they're doing, because I think that is very lacking in our educational system at this time.
Well, some would harken back to when the judge ordered the Tamarind Treaty to cut down. Just indicative of the lack of respect that we have for the people, the society, and the importance of, community, as it were. But see how it goes.
Yeah, and I think at this point it's very important that we sort of connect, where we basically, let's say, have come from the 1832, or even take it further back than that, to present day forward, so that somebody wanting to have a little glimpse of what happened during that period, can go back to these documents and get a fairly good review about it. And in this whole process, those recordings from way back is being digitalized to where it will hopefully be preserved throughout ages, because a lot of that stuff now is on reel-to-reel tape, quarter-inch reel-to-reel tape, that is sitting around in lots of places just deteriorating. Oxidation, and that turns to dust, and you don't have those voices anymore.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Yeah. And there's nothing more, I think, could be convincing than to hear these people speak these words. You can read it off paper, lift it off paper, but to hear them speak it, I think that's where the authenticity, is buried.
History comes to life, Yes. Yeah. Well, looking forward. Friday, part 1.
Part 1, yes, yes.
All right. You got to get back to work. I thought you were retired, man.
Well, I can't retire. If I retire, I'll probably die.
You keep working, sir.
So, Friday at 12:15, CIRAT Talk Today, special presentation on the path to our first constitution, Cayman Islands politics and governance.
All right. Looking forward to being, you let me sit co-pilot? I can sit second chair?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, there you go. With Mr. Loxley.
We'll tie your hands to your sides.
There you go. Yeah, give me a little elbow room. All right, man. But no, thank you very much. Friday, we wanted to join us for that. But when we come back from the break, I think it's an open line, right, Miss Susan? Or there's music. Maybe they'll be singing karaoke. Maybe we'll play and pretend to be Milli Vanilli. All right, 1949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
Hi, I'm thinking of buying a car from the States. Which port do you ship out of?
Hi, we ship out of Miami, Houston, and Brooklyn. Just let us know your port of choice and we can provide you with a quotation and answer any questions you may have on insuring and protecting your vehicle during its journey.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
On a daily basis, making it easy to connect with you, our listeners. Add us to WhatsApp today, 925-3261. That's 925-3261.
Radio Cayman.
Send a text or voice note.
Can I send a request, please?
You don't really have to ask us. Just send a request.
This is a shout out to my ex.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman, maintaining the innovation.
Praise time.
Praise him, praise him, praise him, praise him.
Weekdays 6 to 6:30 a.m.
Early this morning, I woke from my sleep.
Radio Cayman, waking you up with Praise Time.
Praise time.
I know he cares. He'll always be there. Oh, yeah. Praise him, praise him, praise him,
praise time.
Set your clock for 6 a.m. or you will miss it.
For the record.
For the record, a fresh approach for information that matter to you, the people. Hear from the government, the opposition, independents, and other experts on issues and solutions that affect you.
For the record.
Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, tune into 89.9 and 93.9 FM.
For the Record is brought to you by Vamped Motors, the only authorized Ford and Toyota dealership serving the Cayman Islands. Cayman Pharmacy Group, with a location in West Bay and professional pharmacy at CTMH Doctors Hospital. The Cayman Pharmacy Group has a location location for you just around the corner. And Seaboard Marine, with over 35 shipping ports, find your shipping solution by calling 949-4977 or visit seaboardmarine.com for competitive rates.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today, 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. If you're just joining us, again, a special invitation for our CIA Retro Talk Today special on Friday. We're going into our holiday, Heroes Day celebration on Monday, and Mr. Loxley has been at it again, pulling from our archives, tapping into the incredible resource that is our people. And we have another wonderful presentation for you on Friday. So in the Talk Today slot, chance to look at our history. This time, a bit of a political history. We'll get into some of the discussions. Maybe we can confirm some of the things that you always suspected and heard growing up. Maybe we'll dispel even some myths, I don't know. But I'm looking forward to it. And if you were able to hear us earlier, heard from the preview, we're going to be drawing on, decades of history, recorded history, as we speak to the parliamentarians of the day. Now, I always enjoy, watching the masters at work. So Friday I get to sit in the company and learn and hopefully contribute, but certainly to listen and to learn. So that's Friday in the Talk Today, CIA Retro, special edition as we look at our constitution, our political history and the like. Well, it's 949-8037. It's also 1-800-534-8255. After hours, here's Susan's number, 92. No, that's kidding. That's not her number. It's 925-3261. And you can call or you can WhatsApp. Now, on behalf of the Cayman Islands Seafarers Association, just a quick reminder. His Excellency the Governor is hosting a reception forum tomorrow evening at 6:30. So for those who need transportation, there's going to be a bus leaving the West Bay Town Hall. It's now the library at 5:45 p.m. So if you need a ride, you're able to get to the library. Some of us may still call it the Town Hall, just sort of, as it were, almost out of habit. Well, from 5:45 p.m. tomorrow, there's a bus, and it'll take you to the Governor's house for the reception there at 6:30. All right, I'll do my best to try to remember to share that again with us before the day is out. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. There was an email I was trying to access. Boy, and sometimes, as much as I'm conscious of not wanting to print and waste people, even if you were to do it double-sided or reuse scrap paper, sometimes electronically it doesn't work. Sometimes it seems like the phones are so smart, the devices are so smart that they can tell you what you should do as opposed to serving you in the capacity that you've asked it to do. But anyway, we'll get to that. Maybe I'll figure it out at some point before now and Christmas. But let's hear from you. When you go back from our news break at 1, we want you to call and share your thoughts. I must say, it's interesting. The handful of people in the last, less than an hour or so before coming on air, who had shared their thoughts about the, proposals for development in the Smiths Macadair area, and not only what the government has sort of planned, what presumably private developers have in the surrounding area, the conjecture, the speculation, sometimes the outright accusation. Now, you may have a view, like some who say, listen, let's get on with it. There's time for growth, and let's make sure that we're improving the aesthetic. And there are others who are saying, well, man, enough is enough. It's not growth and prosperity if it's destruction and demise of the physical landscape, the environmental pollution that will come, not just from increased people, but the actual construction and the damage to the physical landscape, the impact on society. So always perspectives from different people as we invite you to share your thoughts with us. 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. We invite you to WhatsApp your thoughts if you choose, 925-3261. And whatever is your fancy that works best for you in order to share your thoughts with us, please utilize that avenue in order for us to be able to hear it, engage, to be informed at the very least, to allow you the opportunity to share your perspective. Now, I will say, like I experienced again on Monday, that there are some people who will thankfully take you into confidence and share with you things that you would think were state secret, but really it's fairly commonly held perspective, an opinion, a belief, even an accepted, fact. But for whatever reason, we don't even want to say it, much above a whisper. For whatever reason, maybe it is that we're very polite. Maybe we probably know more than we let it on, and understand that those who know more would be able to read between the lines, as it were, and draw the inferences that some of us won't have any clue actually there. But as was shared with us, sometimes that is to our detriment, because in time that particular tidbit of information is lost, and as a consequence we probably don't know the full context. Not that we probably always know, but at the very least, if it's of significant importance, then why only share it within the confines of some spaces during some times? Why should it not be shared more publicly, more often? Now, obviously, there are some things that may cause others to, not be looked upon as kindly as we probably would like them to be. But as they say, the truth is the truth. 8949-8037. We'll pause, we'll take a break. When we come back, we invite you to be a part of the discussion. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man.
It's only 2 species that we have, on the island.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news.
Access.
Local, regional, international, this is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
The green iguana cull nets more than 23,000 in the first 18 days of the new year. The program saw 12,600 carcasses carried to the landfill for counting between January 13th and 18th. The cull is a nationwide effort to stamp out the invasive species. The program began in October of 2018, and more than 1.14 million greenies had been culled so far. You can find the full breakdown at doe.ky. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Chinese authorities have urged people to stop traveling in and out of Wuhan, the city at the center of a new virus outbreak that has killed 17 people. Those living in the city of 8.9 million people have also been told to avoid crowds and minimize public gatherings. The virus has spread from Wuhan to several Chinese provinces, as well as the U.S., Thailand, and South Korea. There are 440 confirmed cases. And a total of 73 million households worldwide have watched royal drama The Crown since it began in 2016, according to figures released by Netflix. It's the first time the streaming giant has revealed viewing data for the series about the British monarchy. The third season, which stars Olivia Colman as the Queen, was watched in 21 million homes in its first 4 weeks. That was 40% more than seen the second season over the same time period, Netflix said. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. 949-8037 or 1-800-534-8255. Likewise, if you so choose, you can send us your thoughts on our WhatsApp, 925-3261. And certainly want to hear from you. A couple of things that we wanted to share. As we went to the news break, we were saying that, at least, within the hour before we came on air, at least a handful of people call, message, somehow communicated with us in relation to their comments relative to what they're now seeing. Some say they heard about it, some say they saw it in writing at some point, sometime back, but didn't pay it in mind, and now all of a sudden seems like everybody knows about it and have an opinion. What is yours when it comes to what is being proposed? Not just the money that is being spent, not just the design, not just the timing, but what is the impetus? What is the need? Why are we doing it? Some have shared you can improve a space without destroying it. You can destroy a space and not necessarily improve it. And you sometimes, as she was relaying her sentiments, if you think of, say, a piece of land that is waterfront and you clear everything on it, then you make it easier to get to the beach or to the iron shore or to that body of water. But in the process, have you made it any better? If it's nicely cleared and everybody can get to it without stepping in the burrs, as she puts it, or you can park on a nice pavement without getting your, truck bogged, even if it's a four-wheel drive, as she said she discovered. But does that take away or add to the experience? Is it necessary to clear everything in order to make it accessible? But she also said if you leave vegetation, if you leave some of the things and maybe you just do a meandering path, I think she used the word meander, you could make it even much better so that, you don't stand from the road and look 50 feet or 500 feet, whatever the distance is, and see everything. You leave some for expectation, and as you, pick your way, as it were, through the brush to get to, the point of interest, wow, makes the experience, not just a destination, enjoyable. Again, your thoughts. Now, the individuals, a handful or so, were all of the same sort of notion. But there was, just to bring some semblance of, would be balance, 5 on one side and 1 on the other. You would probably think, 5 outweighs 1, but not always. You can think of the 1 being heavy in many cases. But one individual said, but wait a minute, this notion to halt progress, to see all development as being bad. Now, he did share sometimes that there seems to be things that come after the fact that you realize, oh, that's really why they did it. And that, not his words, but my inference, that underhanded sort of sneaky, sly way of doing things. He said, that's unfortunate. But sometimes that's, how they do it. What is it they remind us? It's easier to ask forgiveness and permission. Now, he did share on another occasion that that's one of the things that we seem to do, or to be good at doing here at times. But he's in favor, let's pave it over. If there was a way to create a road to the sandbar, he probably would do it, go up there and drive out and jump off. Now, for some of us, just hearing that, it probably makes us cringe, not unlike discussions in recent times of building some sort of bridge, causeway, roadway, over the North Sound to make it more convenient, faster access, perhaps even safer, perhaps even more scenic. Others will go, but why? Some would share, but the technology is there. I mean, we build, tunnels through huge mountains. We build them under the sea, where you can put, spaceships in outer space. We send things to, far, far away planets. Why shouldn't we leverage the technology and do something here? Others would share, that's the problem. We are greedy and we're short-sighted. But where is your perspective? 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255, or WhatsApp 925-3261. Then the other thing I wanted to share, I had said, and I haven't really got into spending the amount of time I had planned to trying to read and to understand. So the little bit I've done so far, it has to do with this whole notion of cannabis and its use for medicinal purposes, the legalization or decriminalization I wonder sometimes if it's just more than semantics. And the potential revenues from it, the process of whether that would increase the use amongst not just the general populace, but the younger people, whether they're of age or not, and the perception that some have that, this is just another bad step in a liberalized world where we're making it worse for the populace. Now, your thoughts. What I did find is that there are some who shared that, like, other sort of licensed, regulated medical treatments. Again, just my understanding from those who are sharing their knowledge. You go to your chemist or your pharmacist or whatever term you ascribe to that profession, and they need to know certain particulars from you and about you as they speak to your physician and they dispense the medication, so that you're monitored and you get the dosage right and adjustments are made. Well, same or with the cannabis in whatever format that it is dispensed. Now, a few people, just generally speaking, have shared that maybe if we're going to improve the health of our people, if we're going to offer up treatments that assist them in not just, managing their pain and their ailments, but perhaps curing them, perhaps, significantly reducing, whatever that is of an issue to them. It may not go away completely, but it may extend their lives. It may improve the quality of their lives. We should, explore those options. And all of them were the view that, when pressed, that if we're going to look at this, we need to look at it completely and as exhaustively as possible, and to ensure that the sourcing is there. Perhaps we need to grow it and manage it properly. Perhaps as we look at it, we need to consider extracting it and formulating and processing and producing and manufacturing and doing all the things in such a way that at the end of the day, what we have is the best quality. Now, I won't say purest because I'm not sure that's the way it's processed. I don't know enough about it. I haven't had sufficient motivation and inclination to research it, as I probably will at some point. But suffice it to say, we see a community that is divided on the whole issue. Some because of religious reasons, some because of perhaps preconceived notions, others because of past experiences, some because of perceptions and the like. But the question is, what is your view on it? Should it just be, as someone said, you know what, I want to be able to light up a joint in my backyard. I want to be able to smoke it as I would a normal, tobacco product. Is it that you should say, no, it should only be for medicinal purposes and only available in whatever form this is? Should it be, and what is your view? Well, wouldn't mind hearing from you, because it's something that we're seeing increasingly being discussed here. Sometimes not just privately, but publicly. A comment or two from people that we consider to be important or who may be, influential. We certainly see it in the industrialized nations making certain overtures. We're hearing potentially that there are certain revenue measures and certain economic benefits to the country or to the company. We also gather that as we go about it, there are those who have expressed concern that if we don't do it properly and we just do it with a half-hearted approach, we could end up making it much worse, especially when we're not looking at the sourcing, the formulation, whether it be laced with this thing that perhaps extends the shelf life but compromises the integrity, it compromises the benefits of the thing, perhaps even potentially adds more harm in the long run. Or, you add something that really doesn't add any value, mightn't be of any negative, consequence, but it's really just, like you would, you're stretching it, you're watering it down just to get more, from less of it. Well, let's hear from you. 949-8037 or toll free at 1-800-534-8255. Let's go to our phones. Welcome you on Talk Today.
Dear sir, number one, you Kingston.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
I'm cold.
You're cold?
Yeah.
Well, tell me what the temperature is out there.
I don't know, but I tell you what, you know that I can't take it from my accident. You know that. Now, come on.
Boy, but it's cold out here too, man.
You just pretend to...
Susan was playing a song earlier. She said, what was, too cold to fish, too cold for golf. Too hot to fish, too hot for golf, but too cold at home. Is that what you're telling me?
It's too cold, boy.
I tell you, man.
You know I can't take it. From time I had the accident, I don't get full circulation, man.
Yeah, sorry about that. But you're right, man.
I get cold quick, and I ain't afraid to say it, and I'm not ashamed to say it, and doctors will tell you that.
Yeah. Well, it's cold, man. It's in the low 70s now, I think.
Yeah, again, good low tonight, too.
Yep, but apparently going to... I want to say go to 69, but that just might be in some places.
It might go 68, too.
Yeah, it might, yeah.
Hold on. Tomorrow you might just get back on the air, so, right?
We might.
I heard you talking about this cannabis and bottom growing thing. That's the thing from marijuana, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges, right? It's all one and the same. We call it by different names, and I don't know if it's the same.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, man.
That's where it come from, right?
Yeah, from the plant, and then it's extracted and used in different ways.
Yeah, well, I heard this saying a while ago whether people should have the rights to grow it and use it as they like or so and so. I didn't say, I don't know if you was the one said it or you were reading something, but the way I feel about that, the same way some people can't take alcohol and set them mad, one snuff off of that will set them crazy the same way. I say use it for the medical reason, and it can only be given to you by a prescription. That's my feeling.
Well, I think, it's something that we need to look at, because as you are sharing, you go to a doctor, and the doctor is giving you a particular medicine. They probably will monitor you and adjust your dosage so that it doesn't affect you in a bad way or have the unintended consequences. So maybe this thing is the same thing. You get this much, you might need less, you might need more in order to bring about. So monitor it as you would a medicine, right?
Yes, well, that is for the doctors to do. That's their position. Make them, if they just give you a certain amount first, see how it works, and if it don't bother you, and it not help you, carry it up to come over and see if it will help. If it don't, we'll stop it. If it don't work on you, just stop it.
But do you think we'll ever get to a point where we could have a discussion about that? Our society is sufficiently ready, prepared now to have a discussion, or are we still seeing it as this thing that, that's a drug, this is the consequence of it, this is what it's done to people, and this is what you're going to have, and whatever it is that are, the negative side of it. And so we won't ever consider, is there a potential, positive benefit to using it?
Then, if they did not, check into things, then I can't remember the direct word.
Like research it and
research, yes. Yeah. I can't help it sometimes. You know how it goes.
I know, sir, man. It happens.
No, I just can't remember certain things or certain times. It just don't hit me when I'm ready.
That's okay, sir.
All right. If they don't research into it, they will never find out. That's how they find out about other things can help you for certain reasons. So if they don't try it in a certain way and see if it can help you this much, try it on more than one person that really needs it. Don't just give it out so.
Right. But what do you think would happen? Let's say someone, anybody, it could be a potential business person, it could be an aspiring politician, it could be a former politician, it could be a current somebody say a pastor, somebody says, we should be looking at this thing, and let's say they say it in a most respectful, responsible way. I don't know, it could be a physician. Do you think our society is going to say, a person is saying something that's worthwhile listening to, we should check it out and research it? Or are we going to say, hey, he likes to smoke that, and look at him? What do you think? How do you think we're going to look at that person?
Where do we feel about it? I don't know how the society going to say, but what I say is this. No Tom, Dick, and Harry allowed to grow that, just certain places, and that it can be formed into what they need, and it can be passed to the medical department. Okay? Whether you're private or government.
Then, but what about and I'm mindful of this because I do not have sufficient insight into it. But there are those who have expressed a concern that if you're not careful and you regulate it in such a way, then it becomes a monopoly, and as a result, whoever has control can not only control access but price, and then it becomes this thing that if you can't afford it, well, you can't get it. So do we need to do it in such a way that it isn't about the money only or solely?
No, not the money only. The government should know that. If people cannot, when they go to the hospital, they have many medications. When you check them out in certain places, they're very high. But if the people need it, they have to get it. Simple as that.
Well, that's all. Give the people what they want.
That's what it's not a matter of just giving it to them. So the doctor said, well, let's see if this will help you. Once he know it's not going to send your blood pressure up or drop your blood count something, he should know all of that. And you say, all right, Mr. Hunter, Mr. Sorley, whichever one, let's try this and see if this will really help you with that problem, because there's nothing else we can find.
Well, it is, I think, as you shared, it's important that we look at whatever resources we have available to us. And if we can use something that, as you shared, has been researched or has had some success in another jurisdiction, and we can monitor it properly, maybe it'll help, in this case, for this person with this thing.
That's right. That might help save somebody's life. You don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That is what they need to look into much more than some of the other things that other people are talking about. Okay? I'm not going to use the words.
No, I hear you, man. I hear you.
Okay?
Yes, sir.
I said they need to look into all of that, but make sure it is tested properly. And don't go tell Tom, Dick, and Harry, not even me, to go flat it around the back. If you're found with it, it's your problem. Your charge.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
Just like you have, in the same way they find out about other medication and things are grown, things are used, and they're mixed, put together, and let's say if this will work, and it comes out. When you listen sometimes, I don't know if you listen to it, on the TV when they advertising certain medication, one day I sat right here, and the side effect was 11 different things.
You imagine that?
11 side effects, and I can prove it because somebody else was hearing me, and I said, you were counting? They said, yes. 11, but it was only good for one reason.
Yeah, it probably caused more harm than good, huh?
But that's why they need to check into these things and check it out properly, and if it is good for you, just make it be done by the medical authority.
Yeah. Well, it is. I appreciate you taking time to share with us, because it is something that we're hearing increasingly from many people. And when you look at illicit drugs and the profit motive, many would say if you can legalize something or regulate in such a way, you can get rid of the criminality, that sort of illicit behavior. But you also can protect and preserve the integrity of the thing, so that it's not added with formaldehyde or cut with some other illicit drug or whatever is done that causes people to be seriously harmed.
I hear you. You got it right.
Well, I've been listening to a few people. I've been promising that I would do a little bit more reading, but to be honest with you, I haven't engaged in that point as much yet. So we'll see.
I think what the government needs to do is start looking into things that can help people and stop worrying about that dollar coming in. That's all killing them, because they can send their blood pressure too high and they're going to find no medicine carry it down.
Yeah, man. Well, I was listening to the Sean Henning's latest, I call it album, his latest music releases, and one of the songs we're talking about, isn't it strange how all world about the money, it's greed and money. And he's a gifted musician, songwriter, drummer, and I think as we listen to what music, poetry, the arts, what it can do to help us to be informed, but also to reflect on what is transpiring or what may have happened.
Yes, sir.
It might give us a perspective on really something that we don't want to see when we look in the mirror.
Well, what I don't want to see is when I get up and mind my face.
I can't help you with that one, sir. I got to stare at mine.
Dude, I say.
Yes, sir.
All of what's going on around the world now, all these things.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I'm not being rude, but the Bible don't lie.
True.
It has to happen. What's going on, and sometimes when I sit and look on the TV, and I said, "Oh God, one book don't lie. That's the Bible."
Sign of the times, huh?
Yes, sir. Everything it said coming day by day.
Yeah, it's coming to pass, man.
Yes, sir.
But what are we doing to prepare ourselves for it? What are we doing to help our children to find our glory?
You try to encourage them to take them, if they're young enough, take them to Sunday school or take them to church with you. Mm-hmm. Right now, I don't have none with me, but I still go to church. Sometimes I got to crawl down my step. I can prove that.
But if I thank you for telling us that, but what happens when you go to church, to Bible study, you go to, call it to the religious gatherings, whether they are, and you see the behavior, the body language, you hear some of the way the words are spoken, and you look at the people and you go, wow, I'm definitely among sinners, even though they're trying to be saintly. Where is the accountability and the correction of those who are supposed to lead, especially in a biblical way?
If the head one is there and he hear all that going on, the first thing he should said, stop that sort of speech. That's not what the Bible said.
But sometimes the head one is the one that is the most offensive.
Well, someone who is in the audience, correct him. Say, no, Pastor. That's not what the Bible said in so and so and so and so.
Well, I hear you, but maybe...
I would do it too.
Yeah. Perhaps the reminder is that we're going to church for ourselves. We're trying to, that's the only thing that we are accountable for, and we're only responsible for our own salvation. Huh?
Yeah, but you got to look out for your brother and sister to the Bible told you so.
Yeah. That is true. Yeah, that is true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and let me tell you something. I know many people don't like me, but this is one man. I can go sleep night time. I don't hear a soul. That worry not on my head.
Man, I tell you what I say, holding grudges. You know what? It's good to hear that you harbor that, because many of us can't say it with the same conviction that you have.
Well, I said it, and I said it on the air, and who don't like it? Well, tough luck.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right.
You keep up your good work, and listen. You keep that lovely lady there, boy. She has some hot stuff, that the boy.
Boy, she can play some music, huh? I tell you.
Listen, leave her alone.
But I keep hearing that. But it's just that I'm so honored, right, to work with such a wonderful team here, and to see their dedication. I joke and jest about the huge paychecks that they get. People say, "Boy, you're being facetious," but it isn't the money that we make. It's the true love of the job and the dedication, and hopefully not putting them in any problems, but the hours that they put in beyond the required day, and they'll come in and do stuff, and it's not because they live close to work. They really are a dedicated group of people in all areas, whether they're in production, whether they're in sales, it doesn't matter. We have an amazing team of employees here, man. They're incredible. I really am proud of them, man. So I just like it, man.
Yes, but the proudest one is that Susan. Don't you go troubling that girl, or I'm going to have a lawsuit to you. Okay.
But don't worry, man. She's a bracker. She's okay.
I don't need a lawyer. Okay. So,
all right,
okay. So I meet you there face to face.
There you go.
And put her on the side like a steel right there. There's the accused. Here's the accused. Okay.
All right, sir.
All right, you all have a good day. Keep up on the good work. Radio came on doing good things.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Enjoy your afternoon as well.
All right, bye.
All right. Going to pause and take a break. And when we come back, well, are you going to call and share your thoughts with us? Do we need to incentivize you and offer you up another Sean Hennings CD? We can do that. Or do you just want to have a chance to have your say publicly? And, I can promise you, at least we'll be listening. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
National Heroes Day celebrations is Monday, 27th of January.
At this year's event, we will be celebrating our first written constitution, the people who pioneered its establishment, and the first 4 women who bravely stood in the 1959 general election.
Join us as we reflect on our community's journey to the modern Cayman Islands. There will also be a special ceremony to honor and memorialize our national heroes.
Come and join the celebration on Monday, 27th of January at 9 a.m. at Hero Square, downtown Georgetown. Refreshments will follow the celebrations. All are invited to celebrate Cayman,
our history,
our heritage,
and National Heroes Day.
For more information, contact national events at gov.ky or 244-3613.
I cannot forget.
2020 means perfect vision. And if you have your sights set on driving a new hybrid, then the time is now to check out the new RAV4 and CHR. Hold up. Just 2 of the many hybrid models that VAMT is bringing to Cayman. Whether you're looking for a smoother and quieter way of driving or want a car that maximizes fuel efficiency while minimizing emissions, there are lots of ways a new hybrid from VAMT can make the difference in your life. Hybrids save fuel, run cleaner, reduce CO2 emissions, and even recharge their batteries without being plugged in. So focus your 2020 vision on a new hybrid from Vant Motors, and we will see you through. Come to Vant, home of the hybrid, located on Walkers Road.
Every Saturday morning at 9.
Bob, you got to turn around this plane. See my box down there with my parrot and rabbits.
Right here on Radio Cayman.
In Cayman, we are surrounded by water and make our living by farming the sea.
Come join us as we proudly present Caymanian Stories. Caymanian Stories
is brought to you by Exquisite Edibles. Call 917-5538 to place your cupcake order today. Exquisite Edibles, making life's occasions a little bit sweeter.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. It's open line. We wanted you to call and share your thoughts with us. 949-8037. 1-800-534-8255. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Good.
Hey, my good friend. How are you?
Yeah, now you know I have to call, right?
Hey, listen, you know you're always welcome to call.
I'm sorry, but I have to, what you say, tell the truth.
Tell the truth, man. You know me?
Yeah, but in no disagreement with the last caller in the number one, right? Mm-hmm. None of that. But you hear at least he say, be willing to try it. You understand? At least willing to try it. But these people here, the other ones, they're not willing to try it on nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they won't give us the CBD oil, and that takes forever and ever to work. That takes longer to work than the THC oil.
Mm-hmm.
The THC part of it. And the British Virgin Islands, they just got granted, I'm not sure if it was 1,000 acres or 100 acres that they can grow as much as they want freely, right? Keyword British Virgin Islands, you know. They getting ready to do something. Now, we got this in our flag, our coat of arms. We got a rope, right? Now, you can make very strong rope out of hemp or marijuana or cannabis. You understand? And that's a real good industry or a real good part of, bringing us back to, employing everybody or everybody having some little kind of income. You understand? And I always heard Jamaicans tell me that Cayman has the best herb in the world. I've heard plenty stories about this island and herb or cannabis, right? And number one thing I ask, the number one is, don't I have the choice? Shouldn't I have the choice on which medicines I can take from what I can't take?
You would think that if there's a medicine is available. Now, as you share that too, one of the other challenges that I'm hearing from a lot of people is that the way we approach medicine and healthcare, if you can't afford it, you don't have the money to buy a particular drug, get a particular treatment, well, you're just out of luck because you can't afford it. So should that be something that needs to be addressed as well? Some particular...
Yeah, but that's the problem with her. That's why they can't stand it, because I could give you a seed and you can grow that as much as you want. You understand?
Now, how do we, and again, I'm mindful that I honestly don't know a whole lot about it. I haven't done the amount of reading that I think I need to do to try to understand it. So I still get confused of, the CBD and THC and then the strains of indica and what's that one called?
Sativa.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you.
And rudialis.
Okay, I don't have that terminology committed to memory yet to understand it. It's partly because I really have not sat down and, read up on it, right? But increasingly, and I'm mindful that I don't wish to seem to be throwing anybody under the bus or speak out of, that betrays any confidence, but people, medical professionals, people in the healthcare sector, don't want to call them necessarily scientists, but people who are perhaps casual observers and researchers and different people. They share information, they share an opinion, they help you to come up to some sort of level of knowledge, as it were, right? And it appears that it is something that needs to be looked at as exhaustively as possible, because it appears that there are some significant benefits. But again, the way it's administered, the whole approach to it, we got to be careful like anything else. Like chemotherapy, you could do more harm than good.
Well, chemotherapy, you got what is a 93% fail rate. So you only got 7% that you might make it.
Yeah.
With cannabis oil, you got 65% that you will make it.
Yeah. It seems to have, I'll say this with you, and I've only stumbled upon this from two areas I thought were credible. It would seem that there is a growing move by larger, more heavily financed entities to somehow monopolize it and maybe potentially engineer it in such a way that not only will they control the supply, but they'll equally control the way it is.
To control the breed.
Yeah.
Monsanto got it. This company that make Roundup, they got it. They got their own way or their own breed of it. That way, it's sativa and indica all in one tree all the time. So that separation, they're trying to limit that as much as possible or exterminate that part of it. You understand? But Jamaica got strains that is from 1760.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they got strains that will cure diabetes and obesity and autism, you know, seizures, you know, blood pressure. And you take a look at where we are now with us fighting it. I don't see us any better, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And how they got these advertisements on the TV, you know, like, have a Corona, oh, when you get home from work, drink a beer,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like that, you know, and claiming that drug, our drug is, or cannabis is a gateway drug, and you have to say the same about alcohol and tobacco.
Probably even worse so, all right?
You have to say that. And when they're talking about the church, Israel is the number one researcher in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I know the number one thing they talk about in church is the state of Israel, Jerusalem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Bible says every seed bearing fruit, and the grass is for the cattle and the herb is for the service of man. This is all written down in the Bible. So, who you really playing with here? Who you trying to lie to me, or you lying to yourself? You know, what I do in my own town or my own home should be my business. I think that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you're locking up youngsters and youngsters getting a police record, and they go through this whole cycle of back and forth, and you know, I mean, who you fooling?
But what about selective enforcement? Some have, you know, shared not only here but in other jurisdictions. You'll take the young person and charge them, incarcerate them, and what have you. But you take an older person, a professional, and you'll see them. You say, well, they got to unwind. They had a stressful day. You know, they're mature. They know what they're doing. They're responsible. They're not harming themselves. And then we make perhaps distinction based on the jobs they hold, the professions they occupy, maybe even their ethnicity, color of their skin, how much money they make. I don't know. Maybe even what part of the country they live in, or where they, it's selective. Perhaps some would use the word discriminatory, but let's say selective.
Selective is right. When you check out that day, Veterans Day, and you got weird, and you know they sell you a poppy. You know that little poppy that that
right,
red
right.
thing that they say. Yeah.
Right.
That is the base of heroin. You know, that's where opium and all that comes from.
Mm.
So when you talk about being real tricky with you, you understand? No, they're in the fight. They're in the longest war ever in Iraq. Iraq is the heaviest producer of heroin and opium in the world. You know, next to Australia. Okay, so and during these times, what you're seeing an opioid crisis. You're seeing people having overdoses. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
So they're telling you that they go there to fight the war on drugs, and then all of a sudden you have the most, you know, overdoses and death by opium or heroin ever in our human base thing there.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the tricks here? If you can give me say, all right, Mr. Dwayne, Mr. Dwayne,
yes, sir.
If I had a business, a cannabis business, and I was supposed to donate $3,000 every month, listen, I would have no problem giving that. And I don't believe in youngsters using cannabis at all. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that stops the growth of the brain.
So there's alcohol, right? And tobacco.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. The brain stops growing at 24, at age 24. So I love when number one call in and give his opinion like that there.
Mm-hmm.
But you think you can have a politician or somebody stand up like that and give their opinion. Like they know it's something, it's something wrong that they're doing, but you think they would ever turn that money down? You understand? To say the otherwise.
Yeah, man. Well, listen, man, I appreciate what you shared. Any final thoughts?
No.
All right. Well, we have to pick it up again, right? Look out for a message to respond to you. Yeah. All right?
Yes, man.
All right. Talk to you after the show. All right. We'll pause, take a quick short break, but as this emailer or WhatsApper, messenger says, so talking about medicines, I thank God every day that I don't take any medication at all. Well, I won't, you know what? Just give thanks. Let's pause and take a short break. When we come back, we'll pick up the caller too and then continue. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
ValueMed Pharmacy is your community care partner for health and wellness needs. We offer convenient prescription processing at the counter and online at value-medpharmacy.com. That's VALU-medpharmacy.com, with pickup available at the Walkers Road or Boddentown location. We also accept transfer prescriptions from other pharmacies. More than just a pharmacy, shop ValueMed for personal care and beauty products from trusted brands, perfume and gift sets, Hallmark and greeting cards, baby clothes, footwear, handbags, swimwear, home decor, toys, school supplies, and stationery. And home convalescence aids like wheelchairs, walkers, crutches, canes, and hospital beds. With 2 locations to serve you, Walkers Road in Georgetown and in Evron Plaza, Boddentown. Visit ValueMed, more than just a pharmacy.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories. Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
Can you imagine where Cayman runs off renewable energy? We can. Learn how you can join government and be an energy advocate.
Visit the Ministry of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure's Facebook page to learn more.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us. And a quick heads up right after the headline news at 2. Get a chance to talk, about the upcoming Cayman Keswick. Well, it's on. You might have been hearing it already, Cayman. So we get a chance to have a chat about that. But let's go back to our phones. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Hello, Sterling. Good afternoon.
Hey, Ron. What's up now, man?
Ron, good to hear, man.
Good to hear from you.
The weather good, man. They got to go on and fall off the trees in Florida. Good.
You think they take this opportunity now to
yeah, man.
deal with them?
Yeah, but he's in the target. Sterling, here's the point now.
Yes, sir.
Listen, right now, Bernie Sanders, right?
Mm-hmm.
Below Joe Biden, right? And his man, Sterling, you got the politics now. You don't speculate or assume or assumption now. You execute it. Right? Get it done. Get it done. And Bernie Sanders thing now, his drive is now, legalize it in the whole U.S. continent. Marijuana herbs, expunge conviction records, be it less. Okay? And so then I get the point now, for years now, condemning people, disheveling people, people in disarray and disorder. Look at Barbados now. For last week, they allocated lands now, the cultivation. They look after the interest now. Right? The Prime Minister of Barbados, don't you worry about the CARICOM, countries, dividend, you understand?
But if I may ask you, Barbados, we see in the other, even in the other British territories, not even looking at the other independent ones or others, right? Efforts for conservation of lands. There are those, and I want to think into one comment by someone today. On one hand, we say, we need to conserve and protect and preserve, but before that sentence is even, finished, we start to destroy. And I say that carefully, but also understanding that the person not long in the same context spoke about the development in and around, Smith's Back of the Air, not just what is going to affect the area, but developments nearby. So if you tell us that other nations are preserving what they have and putting acreage aside, but we're destroying what we have here?
It's starting to go talking about now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I talk about Barbados now, no? Like last week now, the land now.
Mm-hmm.
They not cultivate herbs now.
Mm-hmm.
That's where come from.
I follow you, but even so, right?
But as we saying, came on, how the survey came on now, right? In construction for years now.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you got to sacrifice something. Yeah?
Right.
Yes, that's how it goes. Yeah? So I don't have a thought now, all right? You know, I'm in momentum now, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see, the Prime Minister of Barbados now, the Belgian Prime Minister, she worked about 15 countries that were done, right? With a proxy war with Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, Venezuela, they have an agreement in court now with Jamaica now.
Mm-hmm.
And they have money's up there in Jamaica. Jamaica seized that money with Venezuela, and they have in court now. So I'm saying, and you know, Russia back in Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
And if you recall, the JLP was funded by CIA in the 70s now, a part of it, right? In Mali with Castro. So it come from.
Mm-hmm.
So the point I make, Sterling, in these times now, everyone look out for the best interest, right? Right? If it's peacefulness, the happiness. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And how we see this, how we see this analyze it now, right? Like, every country looking out long term, right? We can't have no interdictions in tactics. Look at millions of herbs where came on shores. Huh? You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If they're in place, decriminalize, all right, or especially legalize. I mean, now everybody agree with you, know. Now everybody agree with you. But people realize, look at DA for years. They burn on trees in Colombia, Jamaica, and spray and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Turn down, no, what happened now? Because they realize the monies, right, you know what money is, the currency. If it makes sense, how you go. You do a lot of that's how it is.
But is it then, that's what it's about, it's just about the money, you know, control the money, make sure it's all about managing the populace and like,
That's not it. How I see this now, right? If I see the limelight go through clear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Green light go through clear, those monies, right? It's all about herbs now. Those monies, infrastructure, beautification, education, health, everything. And you have something in the piggy bank and the surplus, you hide away.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The one problem with herbs in Canada now, the black market and the grey market. Yeah? That's how it is. But you see, K-Man, we come like, boy, I don't want that, but I don't want that. You see that carbo thing? That culture thing? They found all this was a herbs. Right? You think she got uproar with that? No, the carbo thing gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but people don't know about that now. It's like, I got so much thing now. You see, people came now, they prejudging who are weed head or herbalist. I want to go up here now, darling.
Mm-hmm.
And the most people that criticize herbs, they're the biggest weed head now, or they got into harder substances. You saw them from. But before they would they don't weed head, pot head, this and that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
If I could, right, and I'll ask you about the hypocrisy, but first, your opinion, and only if you're comfortable giving it, the notion that you started smoking herb, or whatever we call it, do you think that person who is smoking that will eventually try some other different drug, maybe a harder drug, or that would be, what is your thought, your personal view?
Me personally, how I see K-Man now, when people are afraid is peer pressure, or whatever crisis they're going through, like crisis, that would they incline to that, like they extend to that lifestyle. That's how I see it now, you know.
Okay.
When most of our people, they stick to that, they stick to what they stick to, you see?
Mm-hmm.
But you see, you don't know the influence of border, you know, but how K-Man is, and almost like we got you much people in K-Man now.
100,000?
I say about 6 to 8. About 68,000, 68K, right? And so, listen, this thing now right now, it's serious now with the US thing, you know. In Jamaica now, right? But for years, the US don't invest the money in Jamaica now. You understand?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But how careful there? Right, we're going on. Right? You see, Sterling, if it's collateral damage, or worth committing, because listen, Russia playing around. You people, I talk in finance. No. Not sure back in Venezuela hard. In China too. Last week, last week, Trump, right? He made the first phase with the trade deal with China. It came on now. What we gonna do? Came on now. We got screening about it. Come here, right? With the coronavirus and stuff like that. Contaminate about it. Yeah, got it. They go to catch that, right? In the other hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so you gotta be careful.
Is that then part of the challenge that our leadership, political leadership and business leadership, the leadership in this country and the people in general, are we not sufficiently paying attention to what is happening globally on the political front and regionally what is happening maybe under our noses and we're oblivious to it? Maybe we're being a bit short-sighted or perhaps being duped and fooled and say, hey, you know what? Doesn't really affect us. I mean, what do you think? We're not, what is it, the lyrics of the Third World, hip to the tricks of the hypocrites?
You see, a lot of people came on and listen to me. I'm born out there alone now. If I had a twin now, I'd probably be a little paranoid, you know. But listen, came on now, boy, a lot of people jump in a certain bandwagon. And they change our lane. So I stick to one thing and know where we come from and be aware of your surroundings.
Okay.
Simple. Yeah. And if you came on politics, boy, I tell you, it really you can put a question mark on it now. Came on politics, because like I said again, starting this Herb thing for a long time. Listen, starting 2008, 2007, I spent $1,050 for one draw. And Judge Ramsey will let me go. Right? So you free to go, but you can hesitate for some reason. And I paid the fine. I mean, I paid the fine right away. And that done. And not for a record, no.
Right. Expunge.
Yeah, that's right away. Right? And now, but that's the point. For years, look at. So the moment thing I say to you.
Yeah, man.
Herb thing. I see years ago. I see about 17 years ago. Certain bird feed, parrot feed. They had herb seeds in it now. And all of a sudden, they don't want certain bird feed, that's certain brand. And one more thing is Sterling, right now, over the counter, drugs, synthetic drugs now. Someone in the US now, they kind of recall them now. But it's illegal. Right? They put blood clots in there, blood clots. Right? Illegal. So, you know, that's the herb thing, that's natural.
Yeah.
And most people know me, before I was born, who know me. Some people, they put the old and me also. Some they bought this career by seeing me. They bought this career by seeing me. And most of some agree with me. But we rather check, right? The rest spinning. Right? So in my time is assets, right? Assets.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, man. So I take it easy, man.
All right, listen, thank you always. Appreciate you taking some time to share with us. Enjoy your afternoon, my friend. All right, we're going to pause and take a break before we go to somebody says, just on a different topic when it comes to chicken. Says government might be better off by starting a chicken culling project. Says kudos on the iguanas. Much better now, not having them around, but now we're being overrun by chickens, especially up in the Prospect area, where it seems that there is this one makes the comment that somebody in particular is starting to feed them by the roadside. We see that practice in a couple of other areas. I guess people feel they're doing a good community service. Perhaps they feel that they got to find food too. But perhaps even in that endeavor, we can't speak to the person's mindset, or intent, or otherwise. But sometimes when we do things with good intentions, they want to make things worse. Sometimes we do things and we think it's we're making people believe it's good intention, but there isn't. I guess like so many, and I appreciate this person taking time to share that sentiment, because it's been one that we've heard people comment on. Again, are we going to ignore the issue? And one day chickens will be the next culling initiative because they're everywhere. Is it something that we can perhaps address now? And maybe those chickens could be used for food source, for eggs, for meat at some point. I don't know. But I guess the point is, like so many things, do we ignore it until, no pun intended, the chickens come home to roost? All right, 949-8037, 1-800-534-8255. Please join us after the news break. A chance to talk to you about the ongoing Keswick series, and always pleasure to hear them. I guess for us sinners, good to be reminded of the word. So stay tuned for Talk Today.
Today's biggest news.
Radio K-Man.
It's only 2 species that we have, on Iowa.
Generations present.
Your voice, your choice. For today's biggest news. Access.
Local, regional, international. This is headlines from Radio Cayman's newsroom team.
Today's biggest news.
Jasmine invites you to their 5th annual Burns Supper on January 24th at 6:30 p.m. at Grand Old House. The fundraiser includes dinner, wine, and Scottish dancing. For more information or to purchase tickets, call 945-7447 or email info@jasmine.ky. Saudi Arabia has denied that its crown prince was responsible for hacking Amazon boss Jeff Bezos' phone. A message from a phone number used by the prince has been implicated in the data breach, according to records. It was previously claimed the alleged hack was linked to the murder of Washington Post writer Jamal Khashoggi at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. And the U.S. 2020 census has officially begun in Toksuk Bay, a remote fishing village on the coast of Alaska. The head of the U.S. Census Bureau kicked off the count with a ceremonial visit to a 90-year-old tribal leader. The census takes place every 10 years, and most of the country's residents are counted from mid-March. But census workers always make an early start in Alaska in January when the ground is frozen enough to traverse. Those are your headlines. I'm Carsley Fuller.
Stay in touch with Radio Cayman for the latest in news and information.
Follow Radio Cayman on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Download the Radio Cayman app or log on to our website, www.radiocayman.gov.ky.
Radio Cayman, your voice, your choice, your radio.
This is the NDC. We're calling on all volunteers to assist us in the administration of the Cayman Islands Student Drug Use Survey.
The survey tracks and monitors over time high-risk behaviors, trends, mental health, and bullying, among other things. This allows us to develop and implement evidence-based prevention programs in our schools and communities.
To volunteer, please call 949-9000 or email iMcLean@ndc.ky by January 24th.
Volunteers must be 18 years or older, can give approximately 1 hour of their time, and willing to attend a brief 30-minute training.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners' participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thanks for joining us. And if you ever need to be reminded that you live in a wonderful place where we can talk about all sorts of things and enjoy the freedoms, well, let me share with you, because I'm honored that Radio Cayman, through many avenues, facilitated discussion of the word. And I don't know about you, but for me that helps, because if my spirit isn't quickened and my actions aren't corrected, I might find my way running, not just follow the law, but more importantly, follow what society has to offer. And every year we get a chance to broadcast Cayman Keswick on Radio Cayman. So today it's a very, very special opportunity to welcome. Before we introduce Pastor Lam to the studio, Pastor Robinson, good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. Good to be here.
Yeah, I'll tell you, man, not a bad place to be on a Wednesday. Huh?
Not at all.
Right. Pastor Bentley Robinson from First Baptist Church. Maybe start with you first, just a quick little word and the notion that, for the lunchtime series in particular, some of us get a chance to come by and spend our lunch. And for others, we either attend in person or, like me, we get to hear it on Radio Cayman as we're moving about and the like. Mm-hmm. But for some, it's not just being there, it's about what it means to be. And Pastor Lamb will ask you to be in and the importance of it and how we can be that encouraging sort of guide, as it were. Well, Pastor Robinson, from that perspective, for those who are listening, why is this so important to you and to us as a people?
Yes, Dwayne. Well, first of all, it's an honor to have Jonathan and Margaret coming to us this year, and just to share God's word with us. Keswick is something that we'll look forward to at this time of the year, and we come together, as you would know, under the theme "All One in Christ Jesus." And it is such a wonderful way to bring the churches together in unity under God's word. So we are so delighted, and Jonathan has been feeding us from God's word during the evening session at Walker's Road Chapel under the theme of dynamic Christian living, hope and realism from 2 Corinthians. And also during the lunchtime meetings, from the Psalms, songs in the key of life, wisdom and encouragement from the Psalms. And so far, it has been a blessing. And so we look forward to what God has in store for the rest of the week.
Amen. I always sometimes try to joke and say, man shall not live by bread alone, so therefore, cats and chocolate. But then the notion is that if you don't nurture the spirit, we need to look after the mental aspect, we need to look after the physical aspect. But we don't nurture the spirit, Pastor Lam, we lose so much. We lose the opportunity to smile with a genuine smile, to help, to be so positioned. Now, as we ask you to share with us, and as we get into maybe talking a little bit, not just about your presence here, but about your presence as minister at large, and to move around the world, even in this day and age where we go out and answer that Great Commission, as it were. So good afternoon to you, sir.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. Thanks for having us.
All right. From the perspective of those who are listening, and I say this carefully, even though I know, with great respect, that there are many of us who value the freedom that we enjoy in this country, to sit publicly and pray, to be on national radio. There are still some who are offended, not just some who come from elsewhere, some who can go back generations ago, but this has to stop. I mean, we're in the 21st century. You can't be doing this thing now. I mean, this has to, and that's seemingly because we've become intelligent and educated and mature, seemingly. I don't mean to offend them, but I think no, probably not. I think we're making a step back, but you guide me because I could be wrong.
Well, I understand what you're saying. Just to come back to what Pastor Bentley said, we've been looking at some of these Psalms. Now, these are really ancient songs in the Old Testament, in the Psalms. Some churches call it the Psalter. It's a big songbook, 150 songs. And the great thing about them is that although we're centuries and centuries old, written way beyond, way back before Jesus came, they contain very significant wisdom for life. And there'll be people listening to us perhaps who aren't committed Christians. They may be from other religious backgrounds. I think they would all respect wisdom for life, though. What do these ancient writings have to say? And we started on Monday looking at the first Psalm, which is a good place to begin, Psalm 1, which talks about the two ways of life. It's a simple summary that there is one way of life where you're trusting yourself. There's another way of life where you're trusting God. And then it talks about the outcome of those two ways and the ultimate destiny of those two ways. So I think the reason why we are spending time here at the Cayman Keswick and looking at the Bible is that although it is an ancient text, as you read it, you're not dusting off this old story. You realize coming off the page, it's real life. It's talking about how people feel right now and the needs and the challenges and the encouragements that they face right at this minute. So that's why we're spending time looking at the Psalms, but also at the New Testament. Yeah.
There are many of us who would go to self-help lectures, read self-help books. And I use that because that's how the books are styled in the bookstores. That's how the conferences are shared. Yeah. And yet there are some of us who say, well, I do that every day. I pick up the Proverbs, the Psalms, the Songs of Solomon.
Exactly, yeah.
And here is the self-help. But there's even more to it. There's actually someone to help.
That's really good, Dwayne. I think the big difference, I mean, I enjoy, I'm in many airport bookshops, so I pick up lots of the self-help books. And I enjoy it. We can learn a lot from that. But the big difference from one of those self-help books and, say, the book of Psalms is exactly what you're saying. Where are you looking for help? The problem is we need more than we have within us. If self-help or if some of the spiritualities today are looking at self-actualization or self-fulfillment, part of our problem is we are the problem. So we need the help that's outside of ourselves. And that's why in Christian terms, the spirituality is looking out to God and what God has done for us in the Lord Jesus. That's the big difference. If we just look inside, well, we're going to end up being very depressed.
If I may ask, and I'll ask you this for me, because I find that if I'm in a classroom setting and the instructor, the teacher, whatever term that person is imparting some knowledge, I should try to learn, especially if I'm paying for it, right? Because if it's not financial payment, it's my time. That's the most valuable commodity that I have. But if I'm here in the presence of gentlemen like you and Pastor Robinson, I want to learn. I want to be better. Maybe I'll even remember some of these things and employ it in practice at some point. Doesn't mean I don't sin, don't mean that I don't pray for salvation. But the notion of faith, you shared something earlier, and for us, that's a word that we don't, even those of us who will go to church often, some of us who may even preach, we don't really exhibit that faith. We jump down on a chair, literally jump on the chair because we did it earlier and we got faith that chair is going to hold us. We get into our cars and we got faith that it's going to start. But man, what do you mean? I got to so faith, and I want to ask you about that in leadership, but how do we get to a point where we have that unwavering faith, that belief, that conviction that I got your hand, man, I got your back, you don't worry, I'm right there.
Yeah. Well, let's use another word which is very close, and that's the idea of trust. Okay, so we're sitting on the chairs. I came into your studio. This chair is good. It's holding me up. And
we cheated. Man, you're lucky.
Oh, okay. So, and we're trusting it to take our weight.
Yes.
And it's the same with friendships. I would try. We've just met, but I'm sure I can trust you. But as I get to know you, and as we become friends, you learn to trust someone even more.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same with God. That He's not some distant, shadowy figure. We know who He is from the Bible. We can meet Him through the Lord Jesus Christ, and then as we get to know Him more, so we can trust Him more. And through difficult times and through bewildering times, some people may face doubts of all kinds. Well, the more you know God, the more you can trust Him with your life now and into eternity. So I think for me, that's the issue, that we want to listen carefully to God's word because it helps us to trust Him more fully. You began quoting Jesus almost.
No.
That we will not live by bread alone, but by everything that God says. In other words, we want to listen to what He says. He made us. He knows what's best for us. We can trust Him.
Amen. But that trust, that faith, that unwavering belief that we have. For some, when we subscribe to that, again, I find two things. One, there's some who look and say, that person is weak. They need this, and they use the word crutch.
Yeah.
Boy, if my earthly father is nearby, he's strong. I can lean on him. I have no problems with that. If I need something that need to be picked up, he's strong. He has the muscles to do it. No questions. But for some reason, to rely on this, we're weak. How do we get people to understand, well, that's actually a strength?
Yeah, that is a very important question. So in the evenings, in case any of your listeners have been tapping in to listen, we have been talking about Paul, who wrote a letter called 2 Corinthians. And the big theme in his letter is how in weakness you can experience God's power. And that's why we called it dynamic Christian living, which is a little bit of a paradox. In other words, you don't have to be big, strong, you don't have to be clever, you don't have to have good words. What you need to know is that you have your own weaknesses and vulnerabilities. What we really need is God's power, God's strength, God's help. And so Paul came to discover that. He went through all kinds of difficulties. He talks in 2 Corinthians about all the pressures he went through. And he said, well, I'm going to boast about my weaknesses because when I'm weak, that's when I'm strong, because that's when I'm trusting the God who has the power. So I've always thought, I came into the studio, your listeners won't know, I came in with a cane, and it's because I had polio when I was a kid. And I found that recognizing my weakness has been a good thing because it's taught me to be more dependent on other people, but most of all, to truly depend on God. So that my strength is nothing to do with my training or my degree or my education or anything. My strength is to do with what God provides. As I put my trust in Him, He's the source of the strength and power that I need. So that's why Paul could boast about his weaknesses in reply to your question, and why I'd like to do the same.
Thank you. And I think that's where many of us look at some of the things that transpire in our lives, and we rely on ourselves. You want it done right, you do it yourself, and we say these things, sometimes genuinely believing that we can do it, even though we'll quickly acknowledge that no man is an island, as it were. But the humility that we may find sometimes in our actions, If I could, again, with your guidance, or one of your books, integrity, leading with God, watching. We had integrity, that the structural integrity that chair is going to hold us, that the integrity of our buildings, the stairs, it's going to be there. But what about the integrity of us as leaders? So that not only we're in the confines of our little space, we have the ultimate power of economic or political leadership, and there's nobody else there except the Almighty Presence. How do we ensure that integrity in our actions, in our deeds, even in our very thoughts, to serve the greater good, to act with that humility, and not allegedly what we've seen globally with some of those in leadership positions, business, civic, political, religious even?
Yeah. You're right. Again, this was a topic we tackled last night at the Cayman Keswick, because Paul was very concerned about that. In other words, if we're going to talk about the Christian faith, it is not just talk. It has to be demonstrated in the way we walk, in the way we act, in the way we behave. And so the reason why I put that little book together on integrity was it seemed to me that Jesus demonstrated, he was sometimes described as being mighty in word and deed. In other words, he was clear in what he had to say, but he lived what he said. He was a person of integrity. Integrity really means it's wholeness, consistency, things fit together well. And if a person comes to know the Lord Jesus Christ and they want to live his life, then of course God enables us to do that. God gives us his Holy Spirit to live in that way. And we have to ensure that what we the way we live, the way we respond, the way we act, exactly matches what we're saying about the Christian faith. And I think you're right. There are many people who perhaps have given up on Christianity in the same way they might give up on politics or on business people, because they say a certain thing, but they don't always live it. And people want consistency. So church leaders, of course, must demonstrate this kind of consistency of life and behavior and attitude and humility, which matches the message they're proclaiming. And if they don't, well, you can understand people giving up on it, because
your words,
your and deeds are quite different. So we need them to belong together. And that's only possible as we listen carefully to what God has to say in his word. That's why we're looking at the Bible. It's also only possible as we become like the Lord Jesus himself, and God's given us his Holy Spirit to help us to live in that way. Then our life and our words, our character, our responses, they all belong together in an integrated way.
May I ask then if you would help guide me in again in this two bits, say faith without works is dead.
Yeah.
And then we also recognize from what you shared, especially when we look at people, our parents, our siblings, our colleagues, those people that we appoint to leadership positions. Excuse me. We said, thank you, Susan. We got it. She's the boss.
I know.
You noticed it, right?
Yeah, I have to notice that immediately. I'm being very careful.
Thank you. I should too, huh? But we noticed that, there's a scripture, and there's one wonderful lady that every time I think of it, I realize her correction. It says, by their fruits ye shall know them. We sometimes fail to appreciate that what we see in the mirror is actually what people see, even though we project or try to something else. So the notion that we have faith, but we're not willing to employ to do anything, not in and of ourselves solely, but just have faith, or do we need to do something to bring about the change to help with the positive impact?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I think what we are, the interesting thing, you quoted a minute ago, faith without works is dead, and that was written by a man called James in the New Testament.
Ebanks, right? I think it was Jesus Ebanks. That was my cousin.
Good.
No.
Yeah, so there's another really nice, it's a small book, but he's particularly emphasizing the importance of action.
Yeah.
Paul, who wrote lots of other New Testament books, as you know, and including the one we're looking at Cayman Keswick, 2 Corinthians, he was very big on faith. He said, you don't need to do lots of stuff. You don't become a Christian by all the good things you do. You become a Christian by putting your faith in Jesus. So those two guys belong together, Paul and James. So Paul says, you don't need to work hard to become a Christian. If you put your faith in Jesus, he's done what needs to be done. You don't need to do anything. You trust Jesus. And then James says, now you've trusted Jesus, you're going to have to do something. In other words, it should lead to something. It's without work, without demonstrating it, it wasn't really faith, it wasn't true faith. So James then shows us in all kinds of ways, in our behavior, in the way we use our money, in the way we use our words. He's got lots of examples of why it's so important that we do something. We demonstrate the truth of what's happened in our lives. So that's why around the world, when you look at the history of what we sometimes call Christian mission, in many nations of the world, the kind of people who've given their lives to build hospitals, to help with education, to support the poor, to engage in social change, to introduce justice and mercy, to make sure there's good law in society. They've often been people who've been committed Christians because they want to demonstrate the truth of what they believe.
If I may ask, and again, just for guidance, I think sometimes we can look at history and it's replete with examples, but that was a century ago, seemingly, right? Yeah. That there seems to be in today's world that the Christians, the people with money and influence, the philanthropists who are Christian, that's not being emphasized. It's their works, it's their money, their financial contributions, their endowments. Back then, here was this individual who first and foremost was a Christian, who had a resource, a commitment, who had a vision, and they used that to fund healthcare, education, a park, is something else. But today, now it's, well, you better take a backstage because that may offend the sensibilities of others. Yeah. Challenges, but give us a perspective.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely understand that, and I think that in many countries of the world now, of course, one of the great things is there is a Christian community in every nation of the world, and they are the ones living in those countries, the indigenous believers, who have to take the responsibility. There was a day, of course, when mission was, particularly the West to the rest, we might say, it was Westerners, sometimes the rich, as you say, who were involved. Usually for good, sometimes not so. Now, of course, in every country of the world, there is growing the family of God, the Christian community, the church. That's growing everywhere, even now in Europe, which has declined. But actually, all around the world, the church is growing. And it's God's people in those countries who are responsible to lead the charge, to be involved in their own society, in their own culture, shape it according to biblical Christian values, but also according to the local culture. So if I understand your question correctly, people rightly object perhaps to big money that's coming in to shape things that people don't like or to influence culture in a way that's inappropriate. I absolutely understand that. What we need are Christian believers in every country, including here in Cayman, who feel the responsibility to serve their own society, do good in their own community, respect their own culture, bring the good news where God has placed them.
And by their works we can see
the truth.
But the Christian athlete, the Christian entertainer, the Christian actor, the Christian businessman, the Christian politician.
Yeah, if we have them.
Yeah, yes. we seem to somehow let that the Christian, sort of qualifier be the backstage. Yet that is the ethos.
That's who they are.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and then when we have Cayman or whether we have another gathering, it seems that it's either us who may be called who attend, and the others who, like us, could benefit even more so. Or we stay outside the gate. Is it that the invitation isn't wide and near? Is it that we're being battered out?
Well, of course, I'm a guest here in Cayman and enjoying it very much, but I think I would speak on behalf of the local team here in saying all of these events are completely open. Is that right, Bentley? That there's no exclusivism. If people would like to come to these events, whether they're Christian or not, or whatever their background, they'd be really welcome. And of course, that was the kind of behavior that Jesus himself displayed, was to engage with ordinary people, whatever their background. And sometimes he was actually alongside the people who really did feel outside, the outcasts and the people the lepers and the people who in a normal society people would shun. Jesus was the one who was alongside them. So I think we have to repent of the kind of attitude that suggests, that we're special or something. We certainly aren't. We're all. In fact, Martin Luther, who's a great German Christian, said that people like myself who are trying to teach the Bible, or people who are telling others about the good news. We're just one beggar telling another beggar where to find bread.
Yeah, and helping them to sometimes maybe open the bag if it needs to, slice it if it needs to, or pull it apart. But we're seeing we're doing it differently. We get the bread and we'd rather it turn mold and hard as opposed to share, even though we have more than we need. Now that bread may actually be, people understand about it. So, if I might know, we got tonight and we got the remainder of the week. What is, what are we going to expect? Because it's been great thus far.
Ah, you're very kind. You're so well researched. I'm very impressed.
No, pass it. No.
Well, yes, we're pressing on. So tonight we're going on in 2 Corinthians. It's a really interesting thing, Dwayne, because it's talking about where Paul is describing the fact that outwardly we're declining. In other words, physically we're getting older. You can do your jogging and your hair colouring, but you can't.
Hey,
yeah, especially you. And, but you can't halt the decay. We're all mortal. But he says outwardly we may be declining, but inwardly we're being renewed. In other words, our inner life, our life which is in the Lord Jesus, which is an eternal life, that's going on and growing and growing and growing. So this evening we're going to look at that question of future hope. Where are we headed? Really big question. What's our destiny? What does the Christian faith have to say? It certainly has a lot to say about how we live now, but it also talks about that future destination that we know we will enjoy. So that's tonight, and then we'll talk a bit more tomorrow about what are the big motivations for Christian living. So anyone who's listening is very welcome. Where is it, Bentley? Where are we meeting, so I get it correct?
At the Walkers Road Chapel at 7 p.m.
Thank you.
All right. And then at lunch times, you also have sessions, less than an hour. So.
Yes, less than an hour, from 12:10 to 12:50 at lunchtime. Right. That's at the Family Life Center on Walkers Road.
See that? Right close to the schools,
Yeah.
But this is where I think when we look at opportunities to not only tap into the resource that may be available on the island, but to be able to cast a net and have others join us through their travels, through their teachings and writings, through their experiences. We can not only live vicariously, but we can perhaps benefit without having to endure the cost or the challenge that the person may have had. And yet we don't always avail ourselves of these, and I'm glad that Radio Cayman has partnered, because it takes it for us, a small place but such a hectic lifestyle for so many. It makes it easier for us to be able to sit and listen, or as we drive to participate. But being in person, it makes it even better.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Dwayne. Certainly, Margaret and I are really enjoying being here. Thanks for the warm welcome. And the Keswick movement actually is in many countries of the world. It was founded in the small town of Keswick in England. And if any of your listeners ever want to see what's going on at the Keswick in England, that takes place at the end of July and August. And all the morning and evening sessions are live streamed on YouTube. So www.keswickministries.org. Keswick is Keswick, keswickministries.org. July and August, end of July and early August, and you'll catch the morning and evening sessions. We'd love to have continued partnership with Cayman Keswick.
Well, I certainly appreciate you emphasizing the pronunciation, because for a few of us for years, and even my good friends who were born or raised and still live in your part of the world, Keswick.
Yeah. Well, you can call it anything you like, but it's a silent. Technically, it's a silent W. But, it's a small English town in the Lake District, and you're all welcome. Come and see us.
I had some friends who've actually made the journey, and they've enjoyed it. They have truly enjoyed it. Not been that courageous yet to sit on the tin can for 11 hours, but maybe I'll get there at some point. That's a long flight.
Yeah, it's a long way. But it's lovely. It's here in Cayman, and it's also in Jamaica and in many parts of in Asia, and some parts of Africa, some parts of Europe. There are about 80 different Keswicks around the world, and so we're really pleased that the Cayman Keswick is one of the older members, one of the senior members of this family.
And it's amazing the people that, handful that I know who come. If they don't do it every year, they make a special effort. They may have been Caymanians who moved overseas. There may have been people who visited and decided they'll time their vacation. While they come and enjoy the sun and the sea, they'll escape the winters or whatever it is from where, and in the evenings they'll come out.
Yeah, that's true.
It's amazing.
Down from Cuba and elsewhere. Yeah, so
I'm thinking, wow, and it's the tourism marketers will talk about sports tourism and other aspects, but here's a tourism aspect that we didn't do anything. It just happens because we're another offering in a wonderful, hospitable place with great organizers and speakers as well.
Yeah, well, I'd like to, if I may, just take the chance to thank the local team here, which has done such a great job. And I think nearly over 20 churches are involved and coming and helping with food and organisation. So it's a real tribute to the strength of the churches here in Cayman, and we're really grateful for their hospitality.
Well, this is where I think we need to be willing to be held accountable and willing to contribute, and to see this level of cooperation. Pastor Bentley, it's a testament to what we can do if we put aside whatever it is that maybe pair differences and divide us, and find the strength in unity.
Yes,
so thank you to you and Pastor Paul and all the others, man. It's fun.
It
all
is.
Right. Closing words from you, Pastor Bentley?
Just to say thanks again for having us and to have Jonathan speak. And I just want to say publicly, thank you, Jonathan, for the way in which you have been ministering God's word to us. And you spoke about faith earlier, Dwayne. Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. And so we are hopeful that as persons keep coming, that God will stir faith in their heart as they listen to his word, so that they can come to know him as their Savior and Lord. So thank you.
Well, thank you all, because I tell everybody, if there's 4 people in the room, chances I'm the biggest sinner, so I appreciate the prayers.
Paul himself the chief of sinners, so I think I stand with him.
There you go. But it's not the failure. It's not the fall. It's the failure to get up and to reach out to the hand that's always extended.
It is. Put your hand in the hand of Jesus.
Amen. Yeah. Thank you very much, Pastor.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
Thanks for having us on.
And to our listeners, come out in person at the Center for lunchtimes and the chapel in the evenings, but really come on and bringing you to you live as well. So, it's good to be ministered to. It's good to contribute. It's good to be reminded that there is salvation at the end of this time that we here occupy on earth. Well, until tomorrow, be blessed.
After all that talk, sit back, relax. Easy listening on the way. You're listening to Susan on the PM Show, Radio Cayman.